our last read aloud, we heard about a great battle on the plains of Marathon. Remember, King Darius of Persia purposely sent an army of soldiers to Marathon because he was upset that the Athenians had helped other Greek city-states fight against Persia. The Athenian generals sent a man named Phidippides to Sparta because they wanted to get word to Sparta as soon as possible in order to ask for help in fighting the Persians, and Phidippides was their fastest runner. The Spartans were not able to help the Athenians, but the Greeks were still able to win. Remember, the Greeks tricked the Persians into attacking their middle and then surrounded them from both sides and drove them away. There was a tribute that was given to Phidippides because he died after running 26 miles from Marathon to the gates of Athens in order to announce the Greeks' victory. Today, a marathon is a special kind of race that is about 26 miles. Our read aloud today, the title of our read aloud today is The Persians Strike Back, or Strike Again. I want you to make a prediction about what you think is going to happen in today's read aloud. The Persians strike again. Do you think it's going to be the same outcome as the Battle of Marathon, or do you think this one will end differently? We'll find out if your predictions are correct, but first, we need to go through our vocabulary words. Channel. A channel is a sailable route between two bodies of water. Swimming through the cold waters of the English Channel has been a challenge for many long-distance swimmers. Defeating. Defeating means winning a battle or contest against another person or group of people. Defeating the enemy was the army's ultimate goal. Deserted. Deserted means abandoned or left behind. Baby birds deserted their nest after they learned how to fly. Fate. Fate is the final outcome or result or something's destiny. The final basketball shot determined the fate of the game. Prefer. Prefer means to choose or like something more than something else. Some people prefer to walk to school rather than drive. Let's think about things that you prefer over others. When you're eating ice cream, do you prefer chocolate or vanilla? When you're playing with your friends, do you prefer playing tag or playing hide and seek? When you're choosing a story to read, do you prefer reading stories about far-off places, or do you prefer reading about kids just like you? King Darius of Persia failed to conquer Greece and died not long after the Greeks won the Battle of Marathon. Darius's son, Xerxes, became the king of Persia. His anger at the Greeks for defeating his father worked inside of him until he could no longer stand it. 10 years after Marathon, King Xerxes sat planning how Persia would attack Greece again. This time, he thought, Persia will have so many soldiers and ships that it will not fail. Why did Xerxes want Persia to fight the Greeks again? Xerxes gathered tens of thousands of soldiers, led by his finest troops. Even Xerxes, however, did not have enough ships to carry that many men to Greece by sea. "We will go overland from Asia and down into Greece," he commanded. This meant that the Persians would have to cross a mile-wide channel of water that lay between Asia and northern Greece. Remember, a channel is a sailable route between two bodies of water. The Persians had to cross the channel of Hellespont to travel by land to Greece. The word channel can also mean a television station, but in this case, we're talking about the route between two different bodies of water. Xerxes told his navy captains, "We will cross the channel on an enormous floating bridge. Spread your ships in rows and tie them together. Then lay wooden platforms across the space between the ships over which my army can pass." Xerxes' vast army succeeded in crossing the decks of 600 ships and moved into Greece. There they faced another difficulty: Greece's high mountains. To avoid having to travel over the mountains, Xerxes led his army south along a narrow strip of dry land near the eastern coast of Greece called Thermopylae. At the other end of this narrow pass, the Greeks were waiting for him. The Greeks knew that Xerxes' army could not spread out to its full width to attack here, for there simply was not enough room in the narrow pass between the mountains and the ocean. Instead, here a smaller army might have a chance to win. Who has the smaller army, the Persians or the Greeks? With most of the city-states working together, the Greeks had sent 10,000 men to block the Persian march. Led by the Spartan king, Leonidas, the Greeks took up positions across the full width of Thermopylae. Leonidas told his soldiers, "The longer we can hold the Persians here, the more time it gives other Greeks to prepare for battle." With the fate of their families always in their minds, Leonidas and his soldiers waited. Leonidas knew that, farther south, an Athenian leader named Themistocles was rushing to draw together a fleet of navy ships. Themistocles was sure that the war would be won at sea, for as he had told the other Greeks, the Persians may force their way into Greece, but Xerxes cannot keep bringing food and other supplies to his men here by land. It takes too long. So if we control the sea, the Persians will eventually have to go home. What do you think? Do you think that's a good strategy? Do you think it'll work? Leonidas and his Spartan soldiers had to hold Xerxes at Thermopylae long enough for the Athenian fleet to get into position. Now, we talked about how Greek city-states usually don't work together unless it's an emergency. What about now? Are they working together now? Yes, we've got an Athenian leader and a Spartan king working together. Soon, the Persians reached the place where the Greeks blocked the pass. Xerxes sent a message to the Greeks warning them to surrender and ask for mercy. He wrote, "I command so many archers that their attack of arrows will block out the sun above you." To this, one of the Spartans jokingly answered, "Fine, we prefer to fight in the shade anyway." Do you think the Greeks really preferred to fight in the shade? Probably not. Why do you think they said that? Do you think maybe they were trying to provoke the Persians? Or trying to show them that maybe they weren't afraid? After waiting for 4 days for the Greeks to surrender, the furious King Xerxes gave word for his Persian armies to attack. However, just as the Greeks had predicted, only a small number of Persian soldiers could fit into the narrow pass at once, so their great numbers did not help them. Leonidas and the Greeks drove back one attack after another. Then one of the Persian officers said to Xerxes, "O great king, a Greek who lives near here offers to lead us to the Greeks through another pass in the mountains, if you will pay him enough gold." Xerxes smiled grimly. "Good. Have him lead half of our men along this other path, so that we can come out behind the Greeks." The Persians began to move back so they could take the other route, but Leonidas of Sparta saw what was happening. Quickly meeting with the other Greek leaders, he commanded, "Take your men safely away from here. I will remain behind with 300 of my best Spartan fighters, and we will force the Persians to take the other, longer way around." "But this is very dangerous for you and your 300 men," another officer protested. "Once the Persians come through the other pass, they will circle around and attack you from behind. You will be caught between the two Persian forces." Leonidas turned to one of the Spartan officers. "What do you think?" His friend shrugged. "We are Spartans," he said, and that was all. It was enough. Leonidas told the other Greeks, "There is your answer. We will stay." Do you think those Spartan soldiers were brave for staying? I think they probably were very brave. So the rest of the Greek army quickly retreated out of the narrow pass, as the 300 Spartans spread out across the area. When they were in position, Leonidas told them, "Let us fight in such a way that forever after, all Persians will speak of us in amazement, and all Greeks in words of pride." Together, the Spartans bravely fought as long as they could, but in the end, the Persians defeated the Spartans and continued on. Leonidas and his 300 Spartans are still remembered more than 2,000 years later for their heroism or bravery for fighting against such a large army. These Greeks were able to hold the Persians at the pass long enough for the other Greek forces to prepare for battle. This famous act of courage by the Spartans became known as the Last Stand at Thermopylae. We have learned a lot already. Let's pause our story for just a minute to review some of the things we've learned. Why did King Xerxes decide to attack Greece? Yes, he was upset because the Greeks had defeated his father during the Battle of Marathon. How was he able to transport his tens of thousands of troops into Greece? He had a very clever solution. He created a floating bridge using wooden platforms across the spaces and decks of 600 ships that were anchored side by side in the channel. What was the last stand at Thermopylae? Remember, in the last stand at Thermopylae, a very brave group of Spartan soldiers agreed to hold back the Persians so that the other Greek forces had time to prepare for battle. Let's find out what happened next. Soon, the Persians continued south and reached Athens. To their shock, they found the city nearly deserted. Meanwhile, Themistocles, the Athenian navy commander, had moved all of the Greeks to nearby areas, including an island called Salamis. When Xerxes realized this, he sent for his navy from Persia. "Sail over here and attack Salamis. he ordered. But this is exactly what the clever Themistocles had counted on. He had hidden the Greek navy in the bays and harbors that lay between the island and Athens on the Greek mainland. As in the mountain pass at Thermopylae, the greater Persian numbers could not help Xerxes in this narrow neck of water. When the Persian ships approached, Themistocles signaled to his ship's captains, "Attack!" From their hiding places, the smaller, faster Greek ships surprised the Persians. The larger Persian ships, jammed together in the narrow waters, could not turn around to defend themselves. Using metal battering rams attached to the bow or front of their ships, the Greeks smashed into the helpless Persian ships. One after another, the Persian vessels sank. Those few that did not sink sailed away broken and battered. The Greek victory at Salamis was complete. King Xerxes realized, "We cannot stay here if we cannot count on our ships to bring us food, medicine, and more soldiers from Persia." Finally, the Persians left Greece. There would be only one more land battle the following year, which was won by the Greeks, but nothing compared to the heroic stand by the Greeks at Marathon, Thermopylae, and Salamis. Finally, the Persian threat was over forever, and the stories of these Greek victories would be told again and again for years to come. In our read aloud today, we heard that Xerxes told his navy captains, "We will cross the channel on an enormous floating bridge." We see this in our first picture. In our second picture, we can see a different meaning of the word channel. Channel can also refer to a television station and its shows. All right, were your predictions about whether the outcome would be the same or different correct? Why did King Xerxes attack Greece? Yes, he was upset that the Greeks had defeated his father during the Battle of Marathon. How did Xerxes transport tens of thousands of troops into Greece? You've got it. He created a floating bridge using wooden platforms across the spaces and decks of 600 ships that were anchored side by side. How were the Greeks able to defeat the much larger Persian army? The Greeks had a very good battle strategy for how they beat the Persians. They fought a small number of Persians at the narrow pass of Thermopylae, and then they held them there while Greek forces got ready. Then they attacked the Persians near Salamis with their ships. So they had a lot of things going on at the same time, so that the Persian army was split up and they could take care of it in different places. So they weren't facing the whole army all at once. What does Sparta's stand at Thermopylae tell us about the Spartans? Do you think they were brave? I think so. I want you to turn to whoever is helping you today, and I want you to think of a question you could ask them about what we learned about today that starts with the word where. Think of a question that starts with the word where and see if they can answer it. If they can't, then you get to be a teacher for a little bit today and answer the question and explain a little bit more about the answer so that they know. When you are done with that conversation with whoever is helping you today, go ahead and open the PDF that's attached to this assignment. In our read aloud today, we heard the Greek soldiers say that they prefer to fight in the shade when they were taunting the Persian army. Remember, the word prefer means that you would choose something or you like something better than another option. If you prefer something over another option, that means that you would choose that option. I have created a word wall with two words that have opposite meanings on either side. One side says hate, the other side says love. I've got the word prefer, as well as a couple other words and phrases, on the side. We are going to decide where on our word wall these words should go. Do these words or phrases have a meaning that is closer to hate or a meaning that is closer to love? Let's start with our first one. Our first one says really like. If you really like something, does that mean that you almost hate it? Probably not. If you really like something, that probably means that you almost love it. Really like is probably just a step down from love. What about if you think something's just okay? It's just okay. Is okay close to hate? Probably not, but is it close to love? It doesn't quite fit there either, huh? If you think something is just okay, and you don't have a lot of strong feelings about it, it's probably somewhere in the middle. It's somewhere in between love and hatred. What about if you prefer something? If you prefer something, does that mean that you hate it? Does it mean that you love it? It's probably not as close to love as really like is, but it means that you like it more than you dislike it. You like it more than you dislike it. I'm going to put it closer to love. Again, not as strong as really like, but closer to love than it is to hatred. What about if you just like something? What if you simply like something? That one, like, is closer to love than it is to hate. I'm going to put like right here in between okay and prefer. Okay, in between okay and prefer. If you just think something is okay, that means that you don't have strong feelings about it either way. If you like something, you're closer to loving it than you are to hating it. But if you prefer something, that means that that would be what would you choose. That's a stronger feeling than just like. And really like is stronger than just preferring. What about do not like? Is do not like close to love? No, that one's probably close to hate. If you do not like something, it's not quite as strong a feeling as hating something, but that is a negative feeling about something, not a neutral feeling or a positive feeling. So our words, in the order that we've put them in, change in strength. Okay is a pretty neutral saying. It's not very strong either way. Do not like is closer to hate, and hate is a stronger word or a stronger feeling. After okay, we move from like to prefer to really like all the way down to love. As we're working on writing and some other things that we'll be working on through the rest of the year, I want you to think about our word wall. When you are writing words, think about what stronger words you could use or more descriptive you could use. I want you to imagine putting your words on a word wall like this. This will help us pick stronger, more powerful words in our writing.